Fuck it, bro. I'm gonna just watch this one. Lamelo Ball's new team is already in trouble by the flight mic. Let's see what he's talking about.
Hornets traded Lamelo Ball and Josh Green for a haul from the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Hornets didn't go into this offseason saying,
damn, that package is low-key crazy, though. Lamelo Ball and Josh Green for Nas Reed, 2033, unprotected first-round pick, which, I mean, it's all right. 3 first-round swap picks, the 2028, 2029, 30. Like, it's okay, but, like...
he's at the peak of his value, and he had a great end
to the season. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if Lamelo's going to stay healthy.
LaMelo is so good right now.
Terrific, aggressive move that will open
up. I don't know
why
they did that.
I've been waiting a little bit before I made this video, mainly because I wanted to see how the rest of the offseason shook out. But honestly, the more I scroll on my feed, the more I can't take it anymore. When the Charlotte Hornets traded LaMelo Ball to the Minnesota Timberwolves, it seemed like everybody landed on the same two takes.
Like,
the first take was Charlotte got robbed. They're clueless. They blew up a young team that was finally fun to watch. It's malpractice. The worst trade ever.
That's something they did.
Minnesota
they
won.
They
fleeced Charlote. They stole a star. Anthony Edwards finally got his wish. He got a sidekick. I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to make the comment section mad. I think both of these two takes are backwards. I think if you go based off of what's won championships recently, this is not the trade that will typically take a team from a fringe championship contender all the way to a championship contender. Now, again, I've been wrong before. This is based
off... yeah, because, like, feel me, a lot of players who, I guess, have won the chip recently have been drafted through, like, big super trades, like the Shea trade and shit like that, which got them Chet Holmgren and, like, a bunch of... Wait, did they get them? I don't think so, but I don't know. It got them a bunch of picks and shit like that, so it's just like, maybe it could be good for Charlotte's future, but I don't know. I think right now it's going to do really good for Minnesota.
My own analysis and own speculation.
And they still have value for him
that
in the future.
This is a failure for the Minnesota Timberwolves because at the same time, Minnesota has to make sure they keep Anthony Edwards happy. And Anthony Edwards has been desperately asking for a secondary star ever since the Minnesota Timberwolves traded away Karl Anthony Towns. So I already broke down this trade the night
and then he went to go win a chip. I would be mad.
Usually whenever I break down a trade the night it happens, my adrenaline's going. I don't really get the opportunity to take a look from the outside coming in. And since then, 2 more moves went down that almost nobody's tying back to this one. And once you pay attention to those 2 moves, the entire story flips on its head. Charlotte might have just pulled off something that's genius. And although this could work for Minnesota, they have a lot to be nervous about. So before we get to the content, we are still running a massive Grand Theft Auto 6 giveaway. We're giving away 20 copies to multiple subscribers that turn on their notifications on this channel. We're running the same giveaway on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitter, so make sure you're followed.
All right, bro.
1, 2. What's going on, everybody? Now I know
what's going on, everybody. Look at that.
So I
what's going on?
Open up this video backing up that claim. If not, I'm being as lazy as other analysts in the sports world. Here's what Charlotte had. They were a team that went from 19 wins the year before to 44 wins and a play-in spot. A team that flipped a switch in January.
Bro. How the fuck do you only win 19 wins? Let's start off with that. But then only 44? Quote unquote, one of your best seasons.
One of the hottest,
44.
Most fun offense.
You can't lie. You can't make that up, bro.
And at the center of it, they had a young core that genuinely looked special. And when I mean special, you have to pay attention to the stats. Their rookie, Kneppel, the 4th overall pick, had a generational year.
He's the best shooter in the fucking world right now. Honestly,
not just rookies, but the whole league. 273 threes. The first rookie in NBA history to lead the league in that. And you know who finished second? Just 1 make behind
Lamelo.
Ball with 272. So Charlotte put 2 guys at the top of the league's 3-point leaderboard, and the only other pair of teammates to ever do that was Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
And then they broke it up immediately.
It's not just the shooting.
They fucking had the Splash Bros in their hands, and they broke it up immediately. You can't make that up. That's wild.
On the floor together,
wow.
Lamelo Ball, Kneppel, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Moussa Diabate. That group had a plus 30.6 net rating in their minutes.
Imagine Kneppel went to Minnesota. Oh my God, that would be the craziest shit
together.
ever.
That's
Holy
a
shit.
cartoon number, guys. That's the kind of number that'll make you wonder why in the world would they break this up. And then there's the human part about this, which is honestly the part that stings the most. Lamelo Ball never wanted to be traded. He wanted to be in Charlotte. Just take a look at his exit interview.
Great group of guys. I love them all.
Yeah, like,
going the right way.
feel like
Got a little
his
better.
home was
Hopefully
Charlotte,
next
bro.
year, not even a play-in. Just got to keep doing the right things, but just use all that fuel for the off season. Should be better for next year.
This clearly
shit.
wasn't a guy that was forcing his way out. He said
Yeah, he
over
obviously
and
didn't
over
wanna
and
leave,
over
bro.
again
You
that he
could tell.
wanted to play his whole career here. He stuck around through some genuinely difficult losing years, and in 6 seasons, the team never once got him a real co-star to play with. So the fan base is
And then
obviously
when they did,
frustrated. They finally got
rid of
good.
him,
Their
bro.
franchise cornerstone is happy. Their young core is popping, and you
Damn, that's what you realize in like hella fucking like the shade trade and shit like that. Like they had a great fucking player and they just got rid of his ass. But maybe it wasn't on the scales like Lamelo.
blew it up for a
obviously.
role player
You
in
feel
some
me?
picks from the 2030s.
Right.
And it
Dead
wasn't
ass.
just the fans. Listen to how their own coach talked about it. Charles Lee was interviewed during the Summer League, and just look at his demeanor.
Man, it is hard. Thought that he helped our group create a foundation, a standard for how we want to operate every day. And I think that he's really just scratching the surface. I think there's more for that young man to achieve.
And you know what? When he says it like that, I could understand the anger. I really do. If you stop the story right there, Charlotte got robbed would be the correct take. So let me tell you why the story doesn't stop there, and why the people screaming the loudest are missing the 2 moves that changed everything. We gotta start with the money, because this is where the emotion and the math stop agreeing with each other. By the end of last season, Lamelo Ball was about to become eligible for a new contract, and it wasn't
love
gonna be a
three.
small
Y'all shit was
contract,
clean.
guys. He could have signed an extension worth around $119 million right off the bat, and if he made an All-NBA team, which on a Charlotte team that was suddenly good was certainly something that could have happened, the ceiling was a supermax north of $200 million.
Yeah, I already knew it.
Charlotte was
200.
staring
God
down a
damn.
decision. You either pay this
Holy.
guy $250 million long term, or you move on. And here's the unfortunate thing about paying LaMelo
And now
Ball that
somebody
money.
definitely
In
gonna
6
have to pay that
NBA
soon.
seasons, he's never once played a single playoff game. Not one.
'Cause he had a
and for 3 of those years,
booty
the knock
ass
wasn't even
team,
his
bruh.
talent. It was the fact that
Holy
he
shit.
couldn't stay on the
That's
floor.
why.
He missed most of 2 straight seasons with ankle injuries.
can't do everything
so
himself,
Charlotte's
dude.
choice was really, do we bet $250 million on a guy who's electric but has never won anything and has a serious
Yes.
injury history?
Yes,
Or do
yes,
we
yes.
sell high right after the one season he finally stayed healthy and played 72 games and get out before the bill comes due? So the Hornets sold high, and that's not a clueless decision. It's a little cold-blooded, but that's the move a smart front
Like,
office
look at
makes,
these
and a
highlights,
scared
dude.
one doesn't. And the thing that's so
What the
scary
fuck?
about this is, if you pay
How
attention
do
to
you
recent
give up on
NBA trends, it's very difficult to determine whether or not this is the right decision. We're living in an era where the most dangerous thing you can do to your own team is overpay for talent, especially the Supermax. That number is so enormous that the guy basically has to be a top 3 or MVP level type of player. A player who could potentially drag you to the NBA Finals every single year, so he has to
Deadass.
be worth it. And almost nobody on the planet actually clears that bar, and when you miss on it, it's the one contract that can strangle your entire roster. And it's resulted in some truly absurd trades. Look at what the Dallas Mavericks did, for instance. They traded Luka Doncic, a top 3 player on earth, 25 years old, smack in his prime. And a huge part of the reason was they had major concerns about handing him another max deal because of his
he was
condition, and
unfit.
whether
Like,
he could
what?
stay on
That
the
shit is
floor.
so dumb.
And the craziest
Fucking
part
crazy.
is you can kind of see it. That season, Luka was limited to 22 games with a bunch of different injuries. The guy
Bro,
was
imagine
staring at a
imagine Luka and Cooper Flag though. That would have been fucking stupid crazy. Holy
$345
shit.
million supermax. And Dallas looked at that number sitting next to the availability and they got spooked. Now, I'm not about to defend that trade. The return was a straight up catastrophe. Fans wanted to burn the building down, but the underlying fear of being terrified to commit a supermax to a guy who might not even be out there in May, that is the exact fear that Charlotte had looking at LaMelo. And it wasn't just Dallas. The Boston Celtics did the same thing. They had a supermax committed to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they just moved off of Jaylen Brown, a dude that literally got handed the biggest contract in the history of the NBA, a $304 million supermax. They did it because they felt like his production wouldn't match up to the paycheck. Brown makes $57 million a year, and stacking on top of Jason Tatum ate up something like 70% of their salary cap, which choked everything else that they were
that's
trying
the
to
bad
build.
thing.
So
They
the front office who won
Can't
the
really
2000
fucking build a team if you only have 2 players. Fucking taking up the whole fucking team salary cap.
24 NBA Finals, the guy who leaned on analytics harder than anybody in the league, looked at their own Finals MVP and said that the money is just not worth it anymore, and that you have to get him out before the deal goes underwater. And what do they get back for him? A 36-year-old Paul George and a couple of picks. A player whose contract is going to expire a year sooner. So when Charlotte looked at Lamelo Ball and the extension that was coming down the pipe, they were reading the exact same room as Dallas and Boston. Overpaying is the new poison, and the Supermax is the trap that springs it. But here's where Charlotte separated themselves from the other two, and I really want you to pay attention to this. Dallas moved off their star and got fleeced. Boston moved off their star and got fleeced. Charlotte made the exact same call, and what they did not do is get fleeced while doing it. Here's the part that
kinda. For LaMelo Ball, he's still he like 24, 25, I think. He's not old. Like, he's still got a lot of fucking time. He's good as shit right now. Like, I don't really give a fuck about them picks and shit they got, bro. I don't know.
The return isn't nothing. Naz Reid is not a throwaway. He's a former sixth man of the year, a 6'11" big who can shoot it
sixth man of the year, not fucking starter of the year, my boy. Not MVP, not defensive player of the year, nothing.
On top of Naz Reid, Charlotte walked away with a war chest, a stack of future first-round picks, and the single largest trade exception in NBA history, worth about $40.8 million. That trade exception is basically a giant coupon that they can use to absorb another star's salary down the road. Which brings me to two moves, the ones that take this from Charlotte panic to, oh, they actually have a plan. Move number one is almost the second they
just wanted more money to try to find somebody new. They didn't want to deal with their old player. Like, that's some bullshit. Like, the fuck? He was loyal to y'all and y'all not loyal to him? What the fuck? And he's doing everything for y'all. He just took y'all to one of y'all best seasons, pretty much. Like, that's wild.
Naz Reid. Charlotte took Reid and Miles Bridges' contract and used them to go chasing another star. Per Michael Scotto, they held exploratory talks with the Boston Celtics for Jaylen Brown. Now, those talks cooled off. Charlotte didn't land him, but pay attention to what that tells you. If this was a team that didn't care about winning, or a team that was supposedly just stripping the roster for parts to pocket money, they would not immediately turn around and try to trade for a top 15 player in the league. You don't chase a finals MVP if the plan is to be bad on purpose. The second move is a few days after the Lamelo deal, Charlotte made another trade. They sent Miles Bridges to the Phoenix Suns for Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and get this, another unprotected 2033 first-round pick. So now they've traded two of their top scorers in the same week, and they've stacked up even more draft capital. Charlotte's now sitting on somewhere around 8 to 11 future first-round picks. You put those two moves together, and the picture is completely different from a team that just got robbed. This isn't a team giving up. This is a team doing a total teardown around Brandon Miller and Con Kneppel, stacking a mountain of assets and then trying to cash those assets in for a real running mate. That's not malpractice, guys. This is a blueprint. It's kind of crazy, the rumors that are out here as a result of this. People are claiming that the reason this is going down is because Michael Jordan needed the cash to cover gambling debts, and that he just running this franchise like a piggy bank. That's wild. There's no real reporting behind this. What actually happened is Michael Jordan sold his majority stake back in 2023 at around a $3 billion valuation, and he never gave a public reason for selling. So if you see the gambling thing stated like it's a fact, it's not. You'll also hear people say that Lamelo Ball was never really hurt, that he was healthy the whole time and the team just told him to sit down and tank for a better draft pick. And look, I can't really tell you what got said behind closed doors, and neither can anybody else, but I'm not going to state that as a fact either, because you've seen the NBA actually investigate into tanking teams, and the Charlotte Hornets were never one of those reported teams. But there are some things I'm not really sold on as well, and I'm very motivated to give you guys the full picture here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is a home run for Charlotte, because there's real risks here, and it starts with that Con Kneppel stat that I hyped up earlier. Here's the thing that nobody is saying about Con leading the league in threes. A huge reason he got all those clean looks in the first place was because of Lamelo Ball, and the stats straight up say it. Lamelo's gravity and his 7+ assists a game are what generated Con's best shots. Without that environment, that volume simply does not exist. And even when I say that Charlotte was better in some lineups with Kobe White,
basically he's saying that shit gonna look a lot different by the time
as opposed to Lamelo, that stat is technically real. White and Kneppel did post a better two-man number, but you have to ask why LaMelo's looks were so good in the first place. It's because he bent the entire defense. Kobe White is a really good player, but he's not a 6'7" point guard who warps a defense the way LaMelo does. So Charlotte's making a bet that Con shooting holds up without the guy who was setting the table. And that's not a sure thing. That's a real risk. And then there's history. This is the same franchise that in 2019 let Kemba Walker, arguably the best player in Charlotte franchise history at the time, walk out the door to the Celtics rather than pay him. So when Charlotte says, trust us, we've got a plan, this is a fan base that's been burned by that plan before. The plan only works if they follow through.
Bro.
And that's the
Kemba Walker was so good, bro.
Charlotte. The war chest, the trade exception, the picks. Bro. None of it means anything if they just sit on this. If they hoard all of these assets and turn into a boring, mediocre team that never actually goes and gets the star, then the Charlotte was robbed crowd was right all along. They just had the wrong reason. If they cash in these chips for a Jaylen Brown type of player and pair him with Brandon Miller and Con Kneppel, then this could be one of the smartest teardowns that we've ever seen in a while, which is why I think Minnesota needs to be very nervous about this trade. Everybody's got Minnesota as the clear winner here. They've got their star, right? They've got the young all-star talent to put next to Anthony Edwards, and I'll be fair, the dream version of this is scary. Anthony Edwards has been getting double-teamed into oblivion because he's basically Minnesota's only shot creator. You put LaMelo Ball next to him, and now you can't just send two bodies at Ant because LaMelo will
send two bodies at each person.
And he'll set the table for everybody else. It's basically the blueprint the Knicks used with Jalen Brunson. Get your star a real point guard so he can play off the ball and just cook. When it works, that backcourt is a problem for the whole league, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. And Minnesota isn't hiding the plan. Chris Finch went on Bleacher Report during Summer League and spelled out exactly how they want to run it.
I think you just put the ball in LaMelo's hands early and trust him to make the right play. I think he's got a proven history of that.
But here's what the Minnesota One people are not factoring in. To get LaMelo Ball, the Timberwolves went all in. I mean, they really emptied their tank. Think about the sequence.
Bro. They really did everything. They gave him hella fucking first round picks,
Reed and basically every meaningful draft pick they had left to get LaMelo.
And
now they're hard capped at the second apron. The cupboard is bare, and the roster is essentially locked. Their team is Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and LaMelo Ball, plus whatever minimum salary guys they can scrape together. If this core isn't good enough, there is no next move. No more picks to trade, no flexibility. This is the team. Tim Connolly bet the whole franchise on it. And it gets shakier because losing Naz Reid didn't just cost them a good player, it blew a hole in their starting lineup. Reid was literally set to be their starting power forward. So now who's going to play the four? The most likely answer is they shove Jaden Daniels up to the power forward spot and roll out a 3-guard lineup with LaMelo, Ant, and Ayo Dosunmu, which the Spurs did something like that last year, which is 3 guards and a smaller 4.
Look at that movement by the Spurs. Holy shit.
They have Victor Wembanyama anchoring everything on the back end. Rudy Gobert is a great defender, but he is not Victor Wembanyama. So Minnesota has to play a guy out of position all year long. That's a real hole, and this trade is what created it. And then there's the question you have to ask anytime you put 2 ball-dominant guards together. Can Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball actually share one basketball? Both of these guys are at their best with the rock in their hands. And both of these are top 5 or
I feel like they gonna share that shit like expeditiously good. I ain't even gonna cap to you, bro. LaMelo Ball is so fucking good at passing, and then you got Anthony Edwards. Imagine he just lobs that shit up. Anthony Edwards, boom! You feel me? Like that shit's gonna go crazy. I'm gonna put money on that shit. Like they got a 5% chance on Kawhi, but let's see how much. If I put $100, if I put $100, I make 2 bands. I make $20,000 if I put a band, bro. I gotta make a band, bro. Deadass. I gotta make a band and I'm gonna put that shit in there. Because they're winning the chip. They're winning the fucking chip this year, bro.
Melo needs
I ain't gonna lie.
Melo. Maybe it clicks and it's beautiful. Or maybe you've got 2 guys fighting over the same steering wheel. Nobody knows what's gonna happen.
Nah.
Minnesota thinks they've already got the...
I think Anthony Edwards he's gonna be like more like assist. I don't know how to say it, bro. Like he's gonna look for assists more. Like he's gonna want to feel me pass more to LaMelo. He won't feel me want to take every single shot. He like, hey, bro, okay, take that one. Hey, Best shooter in the league.
Answer.
Take that
Chris
one.
Finch said this to the Minnesota
Second
Star
best,
Tribune,
well, behind
and
Con
basically said
Knuckle,
they're
but
gonna
that don't
change
count,
the way
bro.
Lamelo plays.
He's
Saying,
too.
we
That's
do
a
see
fucking
him a little
anomaly.
differently. We see what people see in those critiques. There's no doubt we're going to ask him to clean up the shot selection a little bit. There's no doubt that in the West where we are, every minute of basketball is going to be meaningful, and I think he's looking forward to that. But in my opinion, every bit of this is going to come down to the one thing that's haunted Lamelo Ball throughout his entire career. Can he stay on the floor? Because Minnesota didn't just trade for LaMelo's ceiling, they traded away their safety net, their front court depth, and their flexibility, and they bet all of it on a guy whose ankles have betrayed him before. In a Western Conference that is an absolute meat grinder. If he's healthy, they look brilliant, but if those ankles go, they've got no picks, no cap room, and no way out. That's the gamble nobody's talking about. Not Charlotte, Minnesota. So what do I think about all this? The real story of this trade isn't Charlotte got robbed, and it isn't Minnesota won. The real story is that both of these teams made the complete opposite bet, and the internet aimed all of its panic at the wrong one. Charlotte bet on later. They sold on an injury-prone guard at the absolute peak of his value. They dodged a $250 million commitment. They stacked a war chest, and they went.
They just didn't want to pay him. That's the thing. They didn't want to pay him.
Doesn't mean that they can't.
They try to go their own ways because they feel like, oh, we got Con Knuckle now, which I mean, I guess makes
continue
sense.
to do that moving forward. Minnesota bet on the present. They went all in, no safety net, on a guy whose health has never been guaranteed. In the toughest conference in basketball, my honest take is on value, Charlotte did a whole lot better than the mob is giving them credit for. And on risk, Minnesota is the team I'd actually be nervous about because they left
oh god, now they got a crazy team.
But here's the beautiful part. The entire thing swings on one question: LaMelo Ball's health. If he stays on the floor, Minnesota wins this trade where it actually counts, in May and June. And nobody will care that their bench is thin. If those ankles give out, Charlotte robbed the bank in broad daylight, and they've got the picks to prove it. It's the same question that's followed LaMelo during his entire career.
If he's really like, if he, feel me, stays like the way he's been injured and shit like that, then shit might not be good. Especially Anthony Edwards might, you never know, bro. It's just... But they winning the chip. I don't give a fuck. They're winning the chip.
On that answer.
I don't
if
care.
You pay attention, what Charlotte did is kind of brilliant. The entire Eastern Conference is getting scarier. Giannis just landed in Miami next to Bam Adebayo. Washington quietly built a low-key super team. They have AJ DeBonsa, Anthony Davis, and Trae Young. They just brought back Chris Middleton that they traded for Anthony Davis. If Alexandre takes the next step, this is a legitimate team to be afraid of. For Charlotte, sitting on that war chest and doing nothing is not an option. The clock is ticking on them to actually use it. That's the real pressure. Not whether they should have kept LaMelo, but whether they've got the guts to cash in what they got for him. So let me know in the comment section down below after this deeper analysis. Who do you think won this trade?
Who do you think what? Look at us.
I'm dropping.
Alright, good little video, man. I still think Minnesota's Timberwolves is taking the chip home. I don't give a fuck. Anyways, that was it. So peace out, guys.